Alton Towers, we're going to go faster. Do you want to go faster? There's a Funfair at Alton Towers now. Let's talk about this news then. Right, so Alton Towers, it's recently kind of come about that Alton Towers are going to get 4 new rides this year. Amazing news. They look like this. Yeah, this is a Funfair paratrooper on the old Ripsaw site. There's going to be 4 different rides. They have a waltzer, this paratrooper, a breakdance, and a twister as well. They're all going to be dotted around the site. What do we think about this?
I think this was unexpected, personally. And I can understand that the community at the moment is a little bit divided because it's obviously perhaps not the level of theming that we're expected. But then if it is just there to serve a purpose and not as a permanent installation, then you could argue, does it need to be as well themed? I didn't actually know, previous to speaking, that there was going to be a breakdance in there, which is very exciting.
I'll stop you there because I have a photo of the exact model breakdance.
Oh, do you?
Right here. This is the same model of breakdance that they actually will be having on Park. They have 4 different sites. They've got the submission site that was eventually just turned into a little kind of plot of grass next to Enterprise. They have the old Ugg Swinger site, which I assume would be a perfect spot for either something like this or the waltzer. And then they also have Fountain Square just outside Hex. So there will be the 4 sites. Originally, they did discuss putting all 4 of them on the lawns. And all I can say is, thank God they didn't do that. That would have looked horrible.
Well, I was thinking it'd actually be a better way to present them, because what they could do is almost like theme it as like a kind of fair. So they could say, oh, this is our Alton Towers Fair or something, and kind of lean into the idea that they're going to have these fairground rides. So rather than being sort of randomly, dotted around the park, it'd be more like, here's our fairground. And they could have used some of the theming from some of the, like Toxic Junkyard and so on, and kind of themed it to be like a fair, maybe. So that could have worked for me. But the only thing is, it would have been really difficult to manage the crowds, because obviously when you go to a fair, people kind of crowd around the front of the rides, don't they? And you'd have had a lot of people in one place. I think it might have been difficult to manage that way, possibly. So
yeah, I do like the idea of them, advertising it specifically as a fair, and then they could kind of, I feel like they could get away with it a bit more. My first initial opinion of this was, oh dear God. And then my second initial opinion of it was when I started looking at the Ripsaw site, and I thought, oh, even worse. To actually fit that paratrooper in, I don't know how many people have spotted this, but they've removed the back wall theming of Ripsaw and the old operations van. So actually the paratrooper has not only been put in as an extra, we have actually lost potential parts of theming in Forbidden Valley. So that is kind of what made me go, oh, I'm not a big fan of this, but it serves a purpose, and I do get it. How many people do you think are going to be really excited about going on a paratrooper over Nemesis and Galactica?
Well, I think it's hard to compare the two, isn't it? Because it's not necessarily meant to be a direct comparison. I think it's meant to be more of a, if it's hard, isn't it? Because if the line's like 4 hours and you just want to do something for the sake of doing something, then yeah, you could jump on a paratrooper. Also, with the theming, I reckon they probably would have just put that into storage. There's nothing to say they destroyed it. So it could come back.
I think the wall was a pretty concrete object. I think
was it actually a real wall?
Yeah, that was an actual wall that was built. So I think that has now just gone. As for the van or anything, we haven't seen where that's gone, but we just know that it's not in that photo. They may have moved it to somewhere else, maybe. Who knows? Which would be great. I think one of the reasons I really wanted to keep that van there was my Ripsaw model. I wanted to keep it there because I never actually found out what make that van was, and I was going to see if I could find a model of that van, because it's an old military van, and then make the actual operations shed for it. So yeah, my first thing in Forbidden Valley was to go and take photos of that van so I could get the make and model of it. But if it's gone, it's gone. But
do you know what I was thinking though, is that actually a breakdance, okay, usually it has, I know we've joked about it, but it has lots of flashing lights, lots of strobe lights, lots of pepper pounds, it's lots of fun, right? And it's chaos because they usually have smoke machines, and it all creates a bit of a buzz and atmosphere surrounding it, with club tracks, vibrating throughout the land. And so actually one thing that at least surrounding the breakdance, hopefully, is I'd like to think is they would kind of keep that element of the ride, and would do a kind of on a summer's evening when it's really nice and hopefully warm outside, or like late spring, early summer evening. It would create a bit of an atmosphere and kind of a bit of a vibe and a party atmosphere, and lights were going. It would be like quite a buzzy atmosphere surrounding it. That's presuming that they keep all that fun stuff in. But if they take out the lights,
I just can't imagine getting off Nemesis and just walking down and then just suddenly hearing, "Hey, we wanna eat pizza," and all that kicking off. I don't know.
I don't think they're going to do that. I think some people have wondered, will they even turn the lights on? Which I don't think. To be fair, of the ones that fit in the most, the Paratrooper probably isn't that bad. The breakdance outside Hex, however, or potentially outside 13's entrance. I'm not entirely sure about the lights on that one.
I could just imagine walking around the Hex, Hex, bringing it atmospherical, and then, hey, we're going to eat pizza, and just these people like whizzing around going,
Why?
It's like, "Hey, welcome to Alton Towers Resort. Scream if you want to go faster."
Can I just want to say, when have you ever been on a fairground ride and the MC has said to you, "We're going to eat pizza"? That's never happened. But
it's a famous Venga Boys song. We're going to a beefer, but it sounds like we're going to eat pizza. That's the thing.
Is that what
we're going to a pizza? That's the other one.
Yeah, okay. We're going to eat pizza.
Well, the other one is all the Venga Boys tracks on a breakdance with smoke piercing going into your eyes, your eardrums about to burst, and so much light you're blinded, and you're whizzing around at the speed of God knows what, and you feel quite nauseous afterwards. But you know what? It's all fun. It's all part of a summer fun. But will it look like a stark contrast outside of Hex? If they did that, then yeah, it would. But what an atmosphere! Could you imagine the Venga Boys beaming around the court? That'd be what an atmosphere on a summer's evening.
Yeah. Well, someone made the point. Why didn't they bring twirling toadstools out of storage? Because I understand it's in storage apparently.
So the reason they haven't brought it out of storage is because during storage, it's essentially rotted to nothing. It would need essentially rebuilding, which is why it never got brought back. They kept thinking about it, but it's still sat there rotting away. I don't think it was stored as well as it could be. However, it is a really old ride now, so they probably would have to get a new one in if they were to reopen it.
Yeah, so that's a shame. I mean, so my personal opinion is that I don't think they'll turn the lights on. I think it will be quite toned down. I think they'll try and keep it toned down as possible. I don't think you're going to have a DJ. I don't think there'll be any scream if you want to go faster. I think they're just there to serve a purpose as a ride. At the same token, I don't think they're going to make any effort to theme them in any way. I don't think. I think they'll just be there as they are, but toned down without the lights. So it's going to be interesting, I think, and playing devil's advocate with it. I think, it'll probably do its job. People will want to ride them. It'll keep the queues a bit quieter, because the whole problem with Alton Towers is that most of the attractions are big coasters. And so even when they reduce the capacity down to, 50%, 60%, the queues are still really, really busy. And that's the whole problem. So I think they'll do the job. Whether they fit in with the whole, idea that it's a theme park, I don't think it does.
But then does that go the other way? Yeah, absolutely. I think they'll do a good job at spreading out the crowds and that. And but if they don't put the lights on or don't put the music on and just have a kind of a quiet, for example, a quiet I was going to say disco. It's not a disco. What is it again? What's it called? The disco one. I'm thinking we're going to eat pizza now. What's a breakdance? Breakdance, that one. If they had just like a dead breakdance with none of the music, none of the fun, none of the lights, and it just kind of whizzed around with like plain, like speedy gen lights going or whatever, then that kind of also then it really would fall flat, because it's like you're taking the theatrics away from it even more and just having a kind of a metal case, like a big metal block, just doing this thing with no kind of music around it.
Well, they could put a kind of soundtrack on it, couldn't they? They could find like a kind of soundtrack that kind of goes along with Hex or goes along with 13. That could work, maybe.
I just hope it doesn't. I hope it's just not this kind of, no music and no lights and no nothing, and it's just this quiet whizzing thing block in the middle. It'd be either they need to kind of go hard and go home, right? So either like theme it, put lights on, or theme the lights to the areas, so like green lights with a little bit of smoke for the 13 area with like some themed music or whatever. Great, but like I hope they do something to utilize the lighting and the smoke and the music, because that's what makes it so fun.
Yeah. So remind us, Brett, what riders are getting and where do we think they're going?
So we're having a waltzer, a paratrooper, which we know is already on the Ripsaw site. We have a breakdance and a twister, or I think they're called Sizzler as well. That's what I know them as my like home fairgrounds. So the sites are outside Hex on Fountain Square. That will either be one of the bigger of the two, which will be the breakdance or the waltzer. I do think the waltzer would fit better in the Dark Forest area by the old Ugswinger site. And then the twister could potentially go and fit quite well, may I add, on the old Submission site. Something twister next to something that spins next to the Smiler. Yeah, all right. That might work. So, yeah, my predictions will be, obviously, the paratrooper is in Forbidden Valley. I think the breakdance will be outside Hex, the waltzer in Dark Forest, and then the twister will be in X Sector. I think that's my guess based on the space available.
Do we know? Are they gonna? I guess we've spoken about that, but are they gonna like put different paint and like color schemes to them or anything? Because
no, as far as we know, they will be as are. One thing I think would be really quite nice would be like, say, call it the Forbidden Twister or something like that, and literally just put a cheap sign from Leak Signs, where they always get their signs from, that just has, in the Forbidden Valley font, just something like that. And just literally just whack it on the side of the ride. I think that would be enough for people to go, okay, we know that is a temporary ride for now, but at least they've gone, okay, we've acknowledged that it's at least in a themed area. I think that would be quite nice to see, but I don't think they'll go that far.
I think what could be, talking about your twister idea in the Sizzler or twister in next to the sanctuary, the Smiler. I think you could theme the twister quite well even if they, I mean, Twister is a great ride. Okay, yeah, sure, it's a Fairground ride, but it is a great ride, and it works as a permanent flat. When theme parks have had it as permanent flats, it does work. So you can imagine, right? And hear me out here: the Twister carriages being yellow, like what you actually sit in, with the beams and the supports and all that being black, and then on the actual ground, like on the metal.
I see where you're going.
They have the swirly whirly, like the eyes in the logo, right? So it would all be kind of themed to that kind of. And if they, I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't put in all that effort to put a paint job in for a temp ride. I mean, that'd be great if they did. But I mean, even if they installed it as a permanent right there, if it goes well and people enjoy it and they like it and they whack that in as a permanent, they could really theme that up, and it would still add to the whole. And they could call it like the juggler, or the oh god, what are the other elements that you've
I like watching you squirm, like, sorry.
The pincher, or the gasser, or whatever it is, you know what I mean? They're like little like things that you fly under. They could theme it to something like that, to one of the weird mechanisms. and
yeah, they could literally, obviously, one of the legs of the Marmalizers is called the Hypnotizer. And then you have, they did almost retheme a little bit of Enterprise. They started putting kind of green, almost Smiler-esque designs on the centerpiece and stuff like that. So they could easily, and these rides are really easy to make look permanent. I wonder if maybe this, as well as being, to keep queues down and stuff like that, will this be a potential test? If they see that these rides are actually popular enough, could we potentially see another breakdance like they used to have Dynamo on the old Subterra site, which was just a breakdance? So maybe this is also a nice test for potential new flat rides as well, if they find them popular. So maybe if we actually want more flat rides, more real permanent flat rides, then maybe the best thing to do would be to support the park fully in this decision.
Yeah, I think that could be, and as I say, like if they did put a Sizzler in by the Smiler, that is not a bad ride. If it's fully themed up, that is not a bad ride, and it was a good addition. Breakdance, again, more thrill seekery. Great, it worked in the park before. Didn't Thorpe Park have or Chessington have a breakdance? Wasn't Rodeo, or was that Thorpe Park?
Can't think. Well, Thorpe Park is a perfect example. They have an entire quarter of their park dedicated to Fairground rides. Vortex, underneath everything, there's wheels on it. It was the same with, Quantum, Enterprise. These are all traveling Fairground rides that have just been made permanent. Ripsaw and Enterprise that were at the park, or are at the park now, they have wheels on the bottom of them. You can still see the truck underneath Enterprise.
So that makes sense then. Why in that year, when I can't remember what year was it, 2005 or 6 or something like that, like mid noughties, there 3 of them arrived at once. And I remember thinking at the time, I was young, I was like 13 or something, or 12. I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, like we've got 3 new rides to the park this year. That's amazing. And they were all sick. But then clearly, now that you've said that, that makes total sense as to why they came in at 3 a pop.
Yeah. They a lot of rides at Alton Towers have been permanent rendered versions of normal traveling rides. So it's not unusual that they would be adding these. The only difference is this time round, they're just not putting them themed to certain rides because they're only temporary. But fingers crossed, we'll actually see, a Twister in, now we've said it, a Twister in X Sector sounds pretty good.
It does sound good. Hey, and if they themed it up properly, like, put all the logos in, called it the Hypnotizer, sure, that'd be great. Imagine they could add all the little special effects in, like smoke and spray, and like similar to what they do on the coaster. Definitely don't go with any of the names I was shouting out then. The Hypnotizer works the best.
The Toaster.
The Gasser. The Gasser was a good one.
The Egg Scrambler.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Gasser.
No, that's awful.
If you have any... We'll cut the now. We'll keep the Gasser in.
No, I don't like that. I should have thought of a better name.
I love how sometimes you go completely blank and just say random words and ride names that never existed.
Yeah, what was it?
Welcome to Alton Towers Resort on board the Gasser. Scream if you want to go faster.
What was it the other day? I was like, guys, I'm not great with my roller coaster elements. I don't even know these high top things.
High top. He called it a high top. Oh.
And they were like, high top, and I was like, yeah, I'm really not great with my coaster elements. I'm more of a theming guy. Yeah, top hat. I was about to say hi hat, top hat. That's what it's called.
It's so good. I love it so much. You're such a GP.
And for ages, I never knew what a GP was as well. No, I appreciate theming and storytelling.
Yes.
Which is all
we can't all be super nerds like
before people
like
come at me. Yeah. No, you're not a super nerd. You're great. You're a model.
So if anyone has any comments or any ideas about, what flat rides you would like to see, let us know in the comments below, and we might be able to pick them up on another video.
And also in the comments, tell us if you want to scream and you want to go faster.
Pow.
Thank you for joining us for this special edition of Alton Towers News about the new Funfair Rides.